So I just briefed the Council on the tragic events which happened today in Afghanistan. As you know, at 4:30 local time, an attack came to our compound, the compound of our mission in Afghanistan called UNAMA in Mazar-e-Sharif. There was an important demonstration, and part of the demonstrator rushed into our compound with weapons, and they stormed the compound, they put fire on it, and they killed several of our staff. They killed 7 international staff, 3 civilian, and 4 international security guards. I understand that also from the demonstrators, from the attackers, some of them were killed too. But for our UN personnel, 7 were killed and others were injured. So I understand the Security Council condemned in the strongest term, of course, this coward attack.
The ambassador from Pakistan sort of warned people would get killed because of the Quran burning. Now, do you see there's some kind of link possibly here? I mean, that must be very disturbing for you.
It is clear that the demonstration was taking place in Mazar-e-Sharif, as in other places in Afghanistan, complaining about the Quran burning, yes.
Is this incident, I mean, is it entirely over? Some have said that maybe there was a hostage taken or there may be still some staff hidden.
No.
Is this, from your point of view, entirely?
No, from our point of view, it's over. All the rest of UN staff is accounted for. So some are injured, but all of them are accounted for. Now, at this stage, no missing person among our UN personnel.
Do you foresee changing the security practices of, I mean, there was the attack in Kabul on the guest house and staff were withdrawn. Is there some, what changes is DPK or UNAMA going to institute after this attack?
We are, of course, evacuating the staff for the time being there in Mazar-e-Sharif, but the chief of cabinet of the SG, Mr. Vijay Nambia, together with the chief of DSS, Greg Starr, and my director for Afghanistan and Middle East, Mr. Wolfgang Weber, are leaving tonight for Kabul. And of course, Greg Starr, the director of DSS, will review one more time our security apparatus in Afghanistan. No, 7. 7 from the UN, 7. No, from the UN, no national staff was killed. Only international, 7 international staff, no national staff. There were other killed people among the demonstrators. No, 7. Again, 3 civilian, 4 security guards. That makes 7 international UN staff. No national UN staff were killed, but there were some people being killed among the demonstrators and the attackers.
How would the demonstrators be able to scale into the United Nations compound? Or they were just allowed to come?
I understand there were demonstrators, were hundreds, if not thousands of demonstrators, and some of them were clearly armed, and they stormed into the building. I understand the security guard, which were the Gorkha, tried their best, but the number was so high that they were not able to prevent it completely.
It must really concern you that they are targeting a UN compound over their unhappiness with something that occurred here in the United States. I mean, could you ever have foreseen that the UN becomes a target because of an action happening here in the US?
Yeah, we are not sure at all that the UN was a target. It happened that the UN were there, the demonstration were there, but nothing. I just discussed myself with the SRG, Mr. de Mistura, and his impression, as far as now, that UN was not a target. They wanted to take a target, and of course they use this one. They wanted maybe to find an international target, and the UN was the one here in Mazar-e-Sharif.
They were trying to make a statement regards Quran burning, what they say.
The demonstration which took place close to there, but also there was a demonstration in Bamiyan, in other places in Afghanistan, we are clearly complaining about the Quran burning, yes. And of course in Mazar-e-Sharif, there was international who were there, it was the UN. But again, from Mr. de Mistura, he doesn't make link, he doesn't think at all that the UN was the target. International, it happened to be the UN because the UN is on the ground.
One question on Côte d'Ivoire, if you don't mind.
First, I would like to stress that we have, as you know, another tragic incident yesterday in Abidjan. Another UN personnel has been killed. It's a Swedish-Tunisian national. She was killed while at home, and by a stray bullet. She was at the 5th floor of her building in her apartment, and she was killed. She was probably at the window, and she was killed then. The situation on the ground is, of course, confused and fluid, but what we know is the heavy fighting around the presidential palace. Again, the presidential palace, against the residence of Mr. Gbagbo in Cocody, and again around RTI. We understand that most of regular forces have abandoned, have defected from Mr. Gbagbo, remain loyal to him, the Republican Guard, and the special operations called the SECOS. That's heavy fighting with these people. That's where we are, and Mr. Gbagbo has so far have not indicated any intention to leave or to leave the place, despite the call from everywhere, as you know.
Is there any contact with him?
Not from us. We understand that some head of states have spoken to him, but not from the UN.
Mr. de Mistura, did he have curfew?
Yeah, I spoke to Mr. de Mistura 1 hour ago, yes, and explained to me the sequence of events, yes. He's, as you know, he's presently in Mazar-e-Sharif. He went immediately to Mazar-e-Sharif to meet the staff, to discuss with the staff, to discuss with the head of office in UNAMA, who has been wounded but not killed, yes. And the information I gave you come from him, of course.
And just on Côte d'Ivoire, is there in fact, has Ouattara declared a curfew on the city, and are the borders of the country closed? What's the U.S.
No, he declared yesterday both a curfew and closing of the border, but now he reopened the borders, except the land border, some land borders probably with Liberia. But the air borders are reopened. President Ouattara declared them to be reopened very clearly.
Who asked the UN to take over the airport?
It was the commander of the military base of the airport who called us and asked to take over, because as other regular forces, he deflected and he decided to ask us to come. But again, it's at the military part of the airport. To my knowledge, it was a military advisor. No, sorry, it's not a civilian. In that case, he was in uniform. It was a person in uniform, military. Yeah.
So when you say they're being evacuated, of course, why are they being evacuated?
I mean, it was not part of the security guard. I distinguish between the international security guards and the 3 other staff were staff working in the office, not as security of the office. So, but one was a military, the 2 others were purely civilian. No, again, the people who are injured are evacuated, but we will leave people working in Mazar-e-Sharif. So, as I speak, I don't know what will be the decision. We are not evacuating Mazar-e-Sharif, no. Sorry. I made myself not clear enough. Some people are evacuated, those who are wounded, but we keep our presence in Mazar-e-Sharif. For the people who are killed, you mean? Yes. It was at night. It was some UN volunteer who was at home, and at her home, again, her home was at the 5th floor, but unfortunately, I understand, through the window, she was close to the window, and a bullet coming from the street killed her.
There is another incident.
Yeah, it is true that our forces, who have been asked by me and others, to patrol as much as possible during the city, to prevent any vacuum and to try to protect the civilian as it is their mandate. So they have asked them to patrol all over the city, and some of them have been ambushed by forces from the Republican Guard and Special Forces. They have been shot at, and of course they have retaliated, yes. Yes, we had so far 4 casualties. Yes, four, not casualties, 4 injured people. No one died, 4 injured among the soldiers. We are not there yet at all. We make always contingency planning, but we are not planning any specific for the time being, no.
There's some, I mean, I'm not saying you have no mandate, but is there any thought, sort of, you know, in case we're asked for, are you ready?
For any country. Yes, and for any country.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. I just want to convey to you the press statement. The members of the Security Council condemn in the strongest terms the violent attack against the United Nations Operations Center in the northern city of Mazar-i-Sharif, Afghanistan, on 1st April 2011, which resulted in the death and injury of United Nations staff. The members of the Security Council express their deep condolences to the families of the victims. The thoughts of the Security Council members are with the wounded and with all UNAMA personnel. The members of the Security Council condemn all incitement to acts of violence. They call on the government of Afghanistan to bring those responsible to justice and take all possible steps with the assistance of ISAF as appropriate to protect UN personnel and premises. The members of the Security Council reaffirm their support for the people and the government of Afghanistan, their support for the crucial work that the United Nations is doing in partnership with the government for the benefit of all Afghans, and the Council's commitment to a secure and stable Afghanistan. Thank you very much.
Just one question, just on this. Is there any thought of the Council getting a briefing by VJ MDR or Mr. Starr, the people that are going over there?
For the time being, we are just reacting to the acts of violence that took place today, and we consider that it was the appropriate thing to do given the nature of the acts that have been committed. And for the time being, I want to stay with this. Thank you very much.